Hey YouTubers, this is the Gold Standard User 924 coming at you with another video for you guys today. I wanted to get this video out of the way since yesterday, but yeah, I've been busy with work for the past week or so I wasn't really able to get around and do another video regarding about a particular predictions video for WrestleMania 35. Now, I normally don't do prediction videos, but given that this is the biggest event of the year, so I kind of thought, why not use this opportunity to just come up on here and just kind of make one of those rare cases. Now, I would love to do a review for NXT TakeOver, but I don't really have a whole lot to discuss about that pay-per-view since I don't really follow NXT, even though I probably should. But but that would be for an entirely different video for another day. And this is just strictly towards WWE in general as far as the main roster is concerned. This is just going to be sort of my, I guess you could say, a bit of a preview regarding about WrestleMania 35, as well as just kind of my predictions as to which wrestler or which tag team's going to win such and such match. So pretty self-explanatory. I don't necessarily need to go into more further detail about that. But yeah, I mean, with WrestleMania, I mean, this is going to be one of the longest WrestleManias that we've had in recent memory. And we've had WrestleManias that have gone more than 5 hours in recent years, but this, it seems like 35 is really going to set the bar high when it comes to the longevity of the show. And I probably stressed this out a couple more times with some of those opinions regarding about some of these pay-per-views that have been so drawn out, and especially since a lot of them have, you know, gotten to a point where it's like, man, we just want this, like, can't the show be over already? It's like, why is it going for too long? And, you know, I think if I'm looking at the card here, I mean, there's like over 12 matches, which is completely insane. And granted, we've had WrestleMania pay-per-views where they've had matches that were like 10 or 11 matches. 12 maybe be the maximum, but I mean, I know ever since the WWE Network has been launched, it's like WWE's gone out their way to kind of really utilize this opportunity to crank up the hours of some of their pay-per-views, and they'd be given a lot of time and don't have to necessarily worry about, you know, the pay-per-view feed being cut off. I mean, it's not like those days where pre-WWE Network days where they had to go on for like a certain amount of time. I mean, normally pay-per-views would be going on for like maybe 3 hours, or with WrestleMania at one point used to be like 4 hours. But I mean, nowadays, I mean, these WrestleMania events just keep getting longer and longer and longer and longer and longer. And it's kind of gotten to a point, especially given the reason that I don't really do some of the reviews on current day pay-per-views. I mean, this is the reason why I haven't even gotten around to even do a pay-per-view for the Royal Rumble this year. All that rambling aside, I might as well just kind of go out my way, just give you guys my predictions for some of these matches that will be taking place at WrestleMania 35. So these aren't necessarily guaranteed that these matches are going to go in these exact order as of this moment, since I am not sure exactly what the opening match is going to be, whether it be on the pre-show or whether it be on the actual main card. But all I could tell is I'm just going to basically run down the card and just give out some of my thoughts regarding about these matches and who I think will win. So we have is the Raw Tag Team Championship titles on the line. The Revival going as the champions, defend the belt against a reunited Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. So this is going to be in New York City, and I predict that Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder are going to walk out as the new tag team champions. I mean, Zack Ryder, given that he's from New Jersey and WrestleMania this year is taking New York as well, so I think given the hometown advantage, I feel that Zack Ryder, even though he hasn't really been as relevant as he has been on the roster in recent years. I mean, early on in the decade, he was like on fire. I mean, especially with his YouTube show and win a couple title belts, especially the United States and the Intercontinental title, like he did a couple years back at WrestleMania 32. So I think this could be quite a shocker if Hawkins and Ryder do come out as the new tag team champions. And speaking of the tag titles, we also over on SmackDown a fatal four-way match. The Usos being the tag team champions on SmackDown, going up against Cesaro and Sheamus, Shinsuke and Rusev, along with Ricochet and Aleister Black. This was actually pretty interesting. Usos have been kind of like their go-to tag team along with the New Day. And, Ricochet and Aleister Black were, recently had a title match against the War Raiders, and they came up short. So I probably might predict Ricochet and Aleister Black coming out of that match as the new tag team champions. Then we have is the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. So there's actually going to be two Battle Royals, one for the men, obviously the woman, as I was discussing. Kind of like what they've been doing with the Royal Rumble. God, I don't really have a prediction. I gotta look at the roster. Okay, so you have Dana Brooke, Mickie James, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan, all representing Raw. And then on the SmackDown side, you got Asuka, Carmella, Naomi, Lana, Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, Zelina Vega, and Nikki Cross. Now, this is like a match that I just don't really have a... Like, it's really hard because I just don't necessarily... Like, it just feels like, it's just a match that's kind of past the time. Give some of the other female wrestlers something to do. God. I want to say... Gosh. I'm just going to throw my name on the hat. Probably going to say Asuka, because I know Asuka was the SmackDown Women's Champion recently, and she lost her title to Charlotte just a week or two before WrestleMania. So, I mean, I know she was supposed to have a SmackDown title defense, and they were going to do like a fatal four-way match for the women that were representing SmackDown to determine who would face Asuka, but then they kind of did a bait and switch, and then they had Asuka lose to Charlotte. So if I had to predict, I'm going to go with Asuka. Hopefully she bounced back from this. The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. So this is going to be, let's see. God, there's a long list here. Okay, so on Raw, you have Braun Strowman, Apollo Crews, Titus O'Neil, Tyler Breeze, Jinder Mahal, No Way Jose, Bobby Roode, Chad Gable, Kalisto, Grand Metalik, Lince Dorado, Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel, Heath Slater, Rhino. I thought Rhino retired in the storyline, but I don't know what happened there. The Ascension with Victor and Connor, Otis, Tucker, EC3, and then on SmackDown you had guys like Mustafa Ali, Shelton Benjamin, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, the Hardys, Matt and Jeff Hardy, Andrade. I don't know why they dropped his name, but much like what they did with Mustafa Ali. I'm probably going to say EC3. I mean, he's just been, he was just coming into the main roster, or at least it seems like it, but they don't list him as a member on the Raw or SmackDown brand, but it seems to be like a free agent. So I'm gonna go ahead and say EC3. I think this could be a way to kind of get him to kind of earn some kind of accolade, to get people to notice him. Even though maybe my second pick would probably be Braun Strowman. I mean, gosh, this guy's just lost so much momentum. I mean, like a year or two ago, he was like on top of the main event scene, and he was challenging for the Universal title, and then he just came up short. And then I know last year he was like the second to last match on the card in a joke of a tag title match where he won the tag titles with a non-active wrestler, or I could say it's like a 10-year-old child named Nicholas, with all due respect. So Braun would be my second choice, but if I had to pick my first choice, someone that would likely win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, I'm going to go with EC3 on this. Shane McMahon, The Miz, as far as Falls Count Anywhere match is concerned, so I'm probably going to go with The Miz. Miz is going to try and up one over Shane McMahon after all the betrayal that happened. And, they both won the tag team title belts earlier that year, but, they ended up having a short reign when they dropped it to the Usos. Shane McMahon betrays The Miz. He even goes out of the way to kind of ridicule his father. So this kind of boils in this Falls Count Anywhere match. So on my prediction, I'm going to go with The Miz. I'm sure this is going to be a pretty solid match. It would be cool if they got to brawl outside of the stadium, but highly unlikely that'll happen. Like they could be brawling in the crowd or maybe like on the ramp and up on the stage maybe. I can't see them wrestling backstage, although I'm not entirely ruling that out as a possibility. But I think this would be a pretty good match. And I'm going to predict The Miz is going to go over Shane McMahon here. Randy Orton versus AJ Styles. Definitely a match that I'm very much looking forward to. I definitely enjoy the build-up and just how, Styles and Orton are just kind of up-winning each other and just making all these promos about their accomplishments throughout the years and, just basically roasting each other over stuff that's happened throughout most of their individual careers. Like Randy Orton was just talking about how he'd been the youngest world heavyweight champion while AJ Styles was wrestling in bingo halls and basically kind of making all these compare and contrast as far as their where their careers were when they were at their highest in terms of their popularity. So I definitely really like what they've been doing. Hopefully this is going to be better than last year where Styles just kind of, like Styles and Nakamura, it's like you would think that those guys could try and kind of recreate the magic that they had in New Japan. But, I mean, even though the match was pretty enjoyable in some ways, but I think for WrestleMania standards, I think a lot of folks that followed their careers, I think we're expecting a lot more than just good. So, hopefully I think this is going to be a much, much better match than last year's. This could be anyone's ball game. If I had to predict, this one's probably going to be tough. Probably going to go with maybe Randy Orton in this situation. I could easily imagine AJ Styles going for the phenomenal forearm and then like Orton just counters it into the RKO. Basically what they did during the Go Home SmackDown during that little segment on the Kevin Owens show. So I could imagine like Randy Orton just like making a last ditch effort to counter the phenomenal forearm into the RKO to get the 3 count. So I'm going to predict Randy Orton to go over AJ Styles here. Kurt Angle versus Baron Corbin. So we're kind of going over to Monday Night Raw. So I'm going to predict Baron Corbin's going to go over Kurt Angle here. This is the farewell tour for Kurt Angle. This is his last match. And it's kind of a match that, as far as Kurt Angle's last match, as far as his last opponent that he'll face, not the wrestler that comes to my mind when I think of Kurt Angle having his final match against. I mean, I'd be surprised if they really pull out all the stops with this match. But if I had to predict, I'm going to go with Baron Corbin in this case. Baron's going to come out on top, but Angle's going to kind of get the standing ovation at the end. Rey Mysterio and Samoa Joe, and this is for the United States title, so Samoa Joe being the champion going into this event. Probably going to go with Samoa Joe. I mean, Rey, it's great to see Rey back in the WWE again, but with what happened during the Raw Go Home show where he fought Baron Corbin, it looked like Rey kind of tore his knee there, and it just felt like, he was struggling in that match. I mean, granted, he did manage to fight on, but I think given the situation, I'm probably going to go with Samoa Joe, just based on the scenario alone. I think it would be probably a good match. Probably not greatest match, considering given the two wrestlers. I mean, this would have been a great dream match maybe like 10 years ago, but we've kind of gotten to a point now where like Samoa Joe isn't the kind of powerhouse machine like he used to be, and Ray's kind of getting up there in age as well. I'm going to go with Samoa Joe, and he's going to walk out of this match to retain the United States title here. Bobby Lashley and Finn Balor for the Intercontinental title, but it seems like Balor is going to wrestle Bobby Lashley under his demon persona. So my prediction is that the demon is going to regain the Intercontinental title from Bobby Lashley. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. So this is going to be a one-on-one match. This is Roman Reigns' first pay-per-view return as competing in a one-on-one match. Now, he did have his return at Fastlane when he teamed up with his Shield buddies and teaming up against the team that also involved Drew McIntyre, Baron Corbin, and Bobby Lashley. So this kind of carries over into this pay-per-view, this time being one-on-one. So if I had to predict, oh boy, I probably thinking that Drew McIntyre is gonna win this. That might shock some people. I mean, I know that some folks might go with Roman Reigns because he's Roman Reigns, but I'm probably gonna say Drew McIntyre. That might be an unpopular pick, but I'm probably gonna go with Drew McIntyre just for the sake of how much of a force that he has been in recent months. I mean, if you watched his match against Kurt Angle, which was actually a really good match, and even going out his way to humiliate Angle by having him tap out to his own finishing move, so just bring a lot of heat to Drew. So I feel that I think this could be a shocker just to have McIntyre go over Roman Reigns. Now, I know Dean Ambrose, as far as his fate is concerned, because there have been talks of him leaving the company, and it seems like he is legitimately leaving the company. Now, will he make a run in and maybe help out Roman Reigns? That could also be a possibility, so maybe he could interfere in that match. But even despite that, I think Drew's going to pull this one over Roman Reigns, and they'll probably maybe do a rematch the following pay-per-view. So my hat's going to go off to Drew McIntyre if I had to predict who's going to go over in that match. Fatal 4-way tag title match for the women's tag team belts. The Boston Hug, which is basically Bayley and Sasha Banks defending their belts against the Divas of Doom, the Iconics, along with Nia Jax and Tamina. I'm going to predict Bayley and Sasha to retain the tag team titles here. I'm definitely very interested just to see the idea of the women's tag belts being instated in the company. So it's some pretty good opportunity for some of the women wrestlers that don't really get a lot of screen time, or just that don't necessarily have a lot of things to do on the roster. You have the Raw and the SmackDown women's title belts being kind of like the focal point. Like, you have the same 3 or 4 women wrestlers that are on top, and to say nothing with some of the other talent that you have within that division. So I thought having the women's tag team title belts, especially the idea of itself, I think it was really needed. And if I had to pick who's going to retain the tag team titles, probably going to say the Boston Hug Connection. They're going to definitely retain it here. It's really cool to see Beth Phoenix, wrestle again. I thought she was done for good, but it seems like she's coming out of retirement, possibly just for a one-off match. But I'll be surprised if they do win the tag team titles here. But I don't see that happening. Iconics, I don't see them winning. Nia Jax and Tamina, maybe. But I'm probably going to say Bayley and Sasha are going to walk out still the women's tag team champions. I was going to say the Raw women's tag team champions, but I realized that the tag titles could cross over to, on both brands, not just Raw, but SmackDown. So for the Cruiserweight title, I'm going to predict Buddy Murphy to retain the belt. I don't really follow 205 Live, unfortunately, so I have no idea what's going on in that division. So I'm going to predict Buddy Murphy to retain. Let's see, Triple H and Batista, no holds barred match. The stipulation is that if Triple H loses, he would be forced to retire from in-ring competition. Basically a rehash from 6 years ago. Yay! Let alone at the very same pay-per-view, at the very same stadium, being MetLife. God, Triple H is going to go over Batista. pretty much self-explanatory. Batista's only here for a one-off match, and he's likely going back to Hollywood to kind of, focus more on his film career. It's great to see Batista back and all. I know some people are kind of are kind of frowned upon as far as having these two guys going at it. It's like seeing the same wrestlers that, like Triple H and Batista. I mean, that was like, 14 years ago, and now we're kind of revisiting this feud again. It's like, I know some folks are kind of thinking, it's like, can we see them face somebody else, somebody that could use this rub? And if I had to predict, I'm going to go with Triple H to go over in this match. All right, so the WWE title bout with Daniel Bryan as the champion, defending it against Kofi Kingston. It's pretty much a no-brainer. Both great wrestlers in their own right. My prediction, I'm going to go with Kofi Kingston. I mean, he's been around for over 10 years now. He's been busting his ass off. He's just really come a long way. And going through all the hell and all the trials and tribulations that he's been going through, especially in the months leading in the show. So it really comes boiling down to this possibly a once in a lifetime opportunity, taking on Daniel Bryan, who has recently reinvented himself, and now he has Eric Rowan by his side, and both of them kind of have their history going back to their little alliance that they had when the Wyatt family brainwashed Daniel Bryan, and being that Rowan was one of the Wyatts. And so, for the past couple months, Kofi's just been going through hell. He had to fight for his opportunities, and every time it looks like he's getting closer and closer and closer, somehow, some way, there's another obstacle that's in his path, and he's put at a position where he's doomed to fail. But it seems like after what happened when the New Day helping Kofi to earn that opportunity in that tag team gauntlet match, if I had to pick, I'm going to go with Kofi Kingston, and having Kofi go over Daniel would be a really huge moment to become the first African-American WWE champion. Then we have Brock Lesnar going as the Universal Champion, defending against Seth Rollins. Rollins won the Men's Royal Rumble to earn a shot against Brock for the Universal title. So Brock's been holding that belt for quite a while, and aside from the 1 or 2 months in which he wasn't champion, it was only a matter of time before he would go on to regain the Universal title once Roman was forced to vacate it due to undergoing treatment with leukemia. So at the Saudi Arabia show, Brock Lesnar beat Braun Strowman to recapture the Universal title, and he had been holding that belt ever since. My prediction, I'm going to go with Seth Rollins on this, although there is a possible chance that Brock could still retain, much like a situation like last year where everyone thought Roman Reigns was going to beat Brock for the title, but then Brock retained. Now, granted, they did have the rematch a couple months later at SummerSlam, and Roman did, however, beat Brock in that rematch. But I think this time, I feel like Seth Rollins is going to put the nail in the coffin to Brock's reign of terror, and he's going to walk out as the Universal Champion. Seth's definitely come a long way, and ever since going from heel to babyface, and going as far as, trying to kind of go through a bit of redemption since he turned on the Shield a couple years prior to that. And ever since he's gone face, I mean, he's been, taking out all comers. He even beat Triple H, and from that point on, that he would dub himself as the Kingslayer. And then along the way, he would win the Intercontinental title. He would make amends with Dean Ambrose and win the tag titles. Now that he's won the Royal Rumble, so Rollins has had he's definitely had a couple years of him being placed at the top of the food chain. So I'm gonna say Seth Rollins is gonna do the unthinkable, and he's gonna beat Brock Lesnar and win the Universal title. Then we get to the main event. This will be the first WrestleMania in which the wrestlers of the women's division will headline a WrestleMania, and that happens to be the triple threat match for not only the Raw Women's title, but also the SmackDown Women's title. So the Raw Women's Champion Ronda Rousey, as well as the SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte and Becky Lynch. So this is actually going to be a winner-take-all match. So it's one fall to a finish, and the wrestler that pins their opponent to the count of 3 will be declared the undisputed women's champion. So, yeah, this is actually a pretty interesting scenario. Originally, this was supposed to be for the Raw Women's title, but after what happened on SmackDown where Charlotte beat Asuka to win the SmackDown Women's title, so based on that situation alone, that Stephanie McMahon announced that not only will the Raw Women's title be defended, but also the SmackDown Women's title will also be on the line as well. I thought at first that they could possibly do a two-fall triple threat, kind of like what they did at WrestleMania 2000 with the European and Intercontinental titles, but it seems like this time this will be more like a one fall to a finish. This is actually going to be really interesting, and I'm sure it's going to be an amazing match. Now, the build-up to it, that could be pretty questionable. Becky Lynch won the Women's Royal Rumble. Charlotte was the runner-up, but at some point, Becky got hurt, so Charlotte had to take over as the number 1 contender by default. Now, at Fastlane, they did a match between Becky and Charlotte where if Becky won, then she would be reinserted in the women's title match, so making it a 3-way. So Becky would win by DQ on behalf of Ronda's interference. Now, I did see the go-home show to Raw, and a pretty intense scene where Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda were kind of having this all-out brawl that transitions over from the arena into backstage, and then it had like all these police officers arresting those 3 wrestlers, and like Ronda and Becky were even at the back of the police car, and they were like just wrestling in handcuffs. Some really hilarious stuff that ensues, but also some pretty effective stuff as well, and really was enough for me to really get invested into this triple threat match. So if I had to predict, I would say Becky Lynch is going to walk out as the undisputed women's champion. So that's really all my predictions for WrestleMania 35. Now it's just a matter of time of whether my predictions are right. I mean, let me know what your guys' thoughts are regarding about the card, or which of the wrestlers that you would love to see win a certain match. Thank you all guys for watching. And until next time, this is the Gold Standard Caesar 924 signing out.